Welcome to the August 2025 Intermediate Saturday Sampler here close to home in Southington. Please bring in your completed July block beginning Friday, August 8th at 10 a.m. Until Saturday, August 30th to receive your August kit free. Okay, we will be having select finish the bolts that will be available through August 16th. These are 50% off. There's no limit. Come in and check those out. We also have the Bernina Road show is in Southington next Tuesday, August 12th from 2 to 4, featuring new machines, great deals. This is a free event. So if you'd like to sign up, let us know you're coming. That would be great. You can just give the store a call. There are also 2 new Genomes which have arrived here at close to home. The Memory Craft 1000 is sewing and embroidery combination machine with many great features and a 5.5 by 5.5 embroidery hoop. The other is the Memory Craft 100E, which is a dedicated embroidery only machine. Also a 5.5 by 5.5 hoop, lots of built-in designs and features and editing and color touchscreen, very nice. I think the screen is 3.5 inches. Very good for a beginner, even somebody who wants a second one. So that's what's happening. Let's check out the August block for 2025. It is paper piecing, and I should tell you there are 13 spaces to be filled in each of these halves. So that makes a total of 104 pieces. It will take you a while to complete, so I don't want you to wait till the last minute. If you need help on it, certainly come in and seek our assistance. We're going to be making an A and a B unit, sewing these together, and then just putting the fourth together. So let's go to the cutting. Lots of cutting. And you know, paper piecing pieces are oversized, so these are just a minimum of what you're going to get out of your kit. The dots, let's just begin. You need 8 3.5 by 2 inch pieces. That is for section 1. The blue, you need 16 2.5 inch squares. 8 of those are dedicated to position 7s on the A and B units, and the other 8 2.5 inch squares you will be cutting on the diagonal, and they are for positions 2 and 3 for both A and B. The magenta and the small white piece of fabric that you're given, they will be 16 1.5 by 3.5 each. So each of these get the same exact cut. The floral, the button, and the purple, again, those are all the same sizes, just 8 2.5 inch squares. The floral being a position 11, the button position 10, and the purple position 6, and it's all in your instructions where all these pieces are located. And the last one's a very large piece of white. You need 8 5-inch squares. Those are to be cut on the diagonal just once, each of them, and those are in positions 12 and 13. The tools you're going to need for paper piecing, I'm just going to go through them really quick. We did do this last year. You're going to need the Carol Doak foundation paper, the add a quarter plus ruler. I find the 8.5 by 12.5 creative grid extremely helpful for not only cutting my pieces but trimming out my paper piecing papers once I'm all done. You will need a glue stick or a Roxanne's Dab It glue, something that's temporary water-soluble glue. And I find long nose tweezers very helpful to pick out a lot of the paper that gets caught in the little tiny locations, okay? Obviously pins and your seam ripper, your rotary cutter. Seam rippers are good too. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to grab your Carol Doak paper, and you will make 4 copies of your Carol Doak, the pattern on the Carol Doak paper. These don't have the names of the fabrics, but in your instructions you will get the paper piecing handout that has all the fabrics located where they go on your paper piecing. So make sure when you take a copy that the solid lines that are inside the seam allowance measure 6 inch from point to corner and corner to point. 6 inches on both of them. Don't rescale or anything like that. The next thing you want to do is cut them apart like I've done here, and just around the seam allowance, maybe another 1/4 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch around. Don't get crazy. We are going to fill the whole thing in, then trim it down right on our dashed line. Okay, so we're keeping the 6 inch from point to point to corner to corner to point. Make sure that's 6. Take your copies, cut them apart. Once you have 4 A's and 4 B's, set them aside and get all your pieces set up once you're cut. So we're going to start here with position 1, which again are my dots, 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. We're going to do all these in order. We have our 6, our 7 is our blue, 8 and 9 are our magenta. We have the 10, 11, and 12 and 13. So each of these pieces will get all those colors in that order, 1 through 13. So the first thing we're going to do with paper piecing is we're going to put our number 1 position. We're going to glue down our number 1 position. It's the easiest way. Once it's glued, you could pin it, I suppose, but then the pin kind of rocks on the rulers and things. So I just like to glue position 1 in place. So let's talk a little bit for those that are new to paper piecing. This is the front that has all the lines on it that you're going to be sewing on the lines, but you will be forming your block on the reverse side. All right, I know it sounds a little tricky. So all our fabric is going here, all our sewing is going to be on the top. So the first thing I like to do is locate position 1, and in this case we're looking right here at the A1 position. It looks like a nice diamond right in the center. So on the wrong side of our paper, we're going to put glue right in that A1 position. So I'll go ahead and do that. I can kind of see through it on the table. And I'm going to take our first piece, I'm going to place it wrong side of the fabric against the paper, and I'm going to position it so when I look through it, I see that all the fabric is around the A1 position. I don't know if we can see that. Heidi, maybe you could take a... So this is the most important part. Here is my A1 position, but you can see the shadow of the fabric is well outside 1/4 of an inch of the solid lines for A1, and that's what we want to see. So we're going to go ahead, do all 8 pieces exactly like this for the first position. All right, now we're ready to move on to number 2. That was easy. So we're going to take a piece of cardstock. This is, you could take a pattern, index card, anything with a little bit of heft to it, and a nice straight edge. This is going to help us fold the paper over, use our add a quarter, which has a little lip at the 1/4 inch mark. So as you can see, in a minute I'll have the paper over and you won't be able to, but the cardstock goes right up against the edge add a quarter, and we're just going to be trimming here. So every time we're always going to get a nice accurate 1/4 of an inch. And again, it doesn't really matter as far as sewing, because we're sewing on the line. But this will give us our seam allowance, all right? All right. So we've put number 1 down, we've glued it to the wrong side of our template, of our foundation paper, and the next thing we want to do is locate position 2. So we look at our paper, and here is our A1 and here is our A2. So this line between the 1 and the 2 is going to get sewn first, and it's going to go 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, etc., etc. So we're going to take our cardstock. I'm going to place the cardstock down on the lower number, which is our number 1, right on the line between 1 and 2, and I'm just going to fold the bigger number, the higher number, over the cardstock right, and fold it right on that line. Okay? I'm going to take my add a quarter ruler. I'm going to butt it right up against that cardstock like I showed you, and we're going to trim this seam allowance to 1/4 of an inch. So we'll open up our rotary cutter. We're just going to trim it just like that. So as we go through these, we're going to cut just like I did for number 2. Now we're going to sew number 2, and then we're going to press number 2, and then we can go on to number 3. All right, so here is my seam allowance. I'm going to take sorry, I'm going to take my number 2 piece, because I'm all done with number 1, and you can see the position of number 2. So if I fold this open, you see it's right here. So when I fold that down, I'm looking to cover this section plus 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to lay my pieces right sides together, right in the middle, and I'm going to see my 2 lines are right on top of each other. So I have 1/4 of an inch on the blue and 1/4 of an inch on the dot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of take a little peek. I'm going to put a pin in this line between 1 and 2, like I'm sewing. And then what I'm going to do is just going to lift over number 2, and I'm going to look in a light just to make sure that now, just like I did 1, 2 covers all the area, at least 1/4 of an inch around the number 2. So you can see up here that it goes well beyond the dotted seam allowance. So let's go ahead and sew that. I like to use an open toe foot, but today I just have my 1/4 inch foot on because there's a nice straight opening here. There's nothing in front of me or the needle. But an open toe foot does the same thing, it's just a little bit wider. So we're going to go ahead and place our our foundation underneath. We're going to sew on that line, but we're going to start 1/4 of an inch beyond, in front of the line into the next area, and 1/4 of an inch beyond this number 2. All right. And the last thing we're going to do is we have our open toe. We want to take little tiny stitches. So on my Bernina, I'm going to turn my stitch length down to about a 1.6 or a 1.5. Somewhere very, very short. This will help us to more perforate our paper and make it really easy to pull off. All right, so let's just begin. I'm right on the line. I pulled out my pin. I sewed. Notice as I'm sewing, I have that 1/4 of an inch. So here's my 1/4 inch foot, and it's really on the edge, which tells me I'm right on the money. But the most important thing is to begin and end 1/4 inch beyond this number 2 section. All right. So I'll do a few more. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our little threads off. We're going to take all 8 pieces over to our ironing board. And we're just going to open this up nice and wide and just give it a little bit of heat. So remember, we're going to sew, then we're going to press, and the next thing we're going to do is trim our next location. All right, so let's go find our next piece. So we're going to flip it over. Here's our number 2. Here's our number 3 location. 1 and 2 are lower than 3, so I'm going to put the cardstock on the line between the 1 and the 3. And I'm going to fold this over right on that line. I have a little bit of a seam going on right here. I don't really worry too much about that. It's perfectly fine. I take my add a quarter ruler and I trim it. So let me turn it this way. All right, so now we're going to take our next piece, which is number 3. And I see my little triangle. Oh, it's hard to see in the camera, but here's the line where number 3 is. So I want to make sure that this piece sits pretty even behind number 3. And again, I'm lining up my raw edges together to get my 1/4 inch seam allowance. It probably can go over just a tad more. But I'm going to put a pin in and I'm going to peek and I'm going to see that it's right on the money. Sorry, it's stuck. All right, so we're going to open this up. We're going to take our pin. We're going to pin on the line between 1, 2, and the 3. And then when I pull this over, I can open that up and I can again look up in the mirror or up at the light and I can see very clearly this location, A3, which is completely covered in fabric if I'm going to sew that. So I'm going to go ahead and sew that. So we're going to start in our seam, just in our seam allowance, just beyond the seam allowance. Straight on that line. I'm going to remove the pin. And sew right on that line. And remember, here's the end, but we want to go at least 1/4 inch beyond. Okay. So we're going to do that to all 8 pieces. We're going to bring this over to the ironing board. And once again, we're going to open this up nice and wide and give that some heat. Okay. Next, let's go to do one more, number 4. So we're going to flip it over. We're going to find number 4. Here's the 4. Here's my lower numbers, 1 and 3. So I'm actually right-handed. I'm just going to spin it around a little bit. Here's our 4, our nice tall triangle. It's going to be white. I'm going to put the cardstock on the lower numbers on the line between the lower and fold over the higher number, just like this. Now remember, I have a little bit of a seam in there. Just pull it back, put your add a quarter on, trim it down to 1/4. Grab your next piece, which is number 4, and now, I don't know if you can see, but here's my long triangle that I'm trying to fill. So I want to get my fabric right sides together so that it will cover that whole area. All right, so if I wanted, I could pin this, and it's kind of a good idea to pin it just to hold this piece in place while you get it under the foot, because sometimes this has a tendency to want to twist on you. But I know if I was sewing here and I pulled this over, that area is completely covered. So let's go one more time. Let's go sew on the line. So again, we're starting beyond where it stops in front of. We're going to sew on our line, pull out our pin. We don't want to sew on the pins. And this is where it 4 stops, but we're going to continue into the seam allowance. Just like that. Okay? And we're going to press. So we're going to continue putting the cardstock on the lower number, turning it into the bigger number. And the last thing we do is press, and then now we're on to number 5. All right, so we're going to continue to do this all the way until our foundation is finished. Now I have one here that I've done everything except for the very last one, which is number 13. I already turned it, trimmed it, and now I have to put the very last one on. So if I know that here is my triangle, I want to mimic that. I'm going to put that on, lift that up, and I'll just put my little, I'll do one last one on this one, then I'll show you how to trim them up. This is a very long one, so hang in there. All right, so let me press this, and then I'll show you how to trim down your foundations. Okay, nice heat. So it looks kind of wonky right now, but we're going to flip it over and grab our 8.5 by 12.5 inch ruler. And again, we want to trim on this little dashed outside line. The outermost line is our cut line. We do not want to trim on the solid. That is our stitching. So I have this ruler, and I'm going to put my 1/4 inch mark on the solid so that the edge is on the dotted. I hope that makes sense to you. I'd hate for you to get this far and cut the wrong line. So I have a nice 90-degree corner. I have my stitch line, which is my solid, and I cut on the dashed. So the last thing, I have one more line. So I'm going to put my 1/4 inch mark on the solid so that I get a nice 1/4 inch seam allowance. Just like that. And here's our block. So you're going to have 8 A's and 8 B's. Okay, what do I do with 8 A's and 8 B's? You're going to take the A and the B with a pin, and you're going to poke the 2 centers right here that go together, this point and this point. So let's do that. So if I'm here, I'm going to poke right here, and I'm going to get it pretty darn close to that mark right there. All right, and then I'm going to join it with this point right here. Oops, keep spinning around. All right, so now my 2 pieces are exactly where they need to be. And this is where I kind of take another pin and just make sure that my blocks are right on top of each other. If I poke through this line, it should come out on that line. So a little adjusting. There we go. All right, so I'm okay to go ahead and put a pin here. And we're just going to move up all the way so that our very end of our triangles meet. Oh, it's pretty close. All right, so those 2 points match. I can go ahead and put a pin here. And what you want to do is now sew on the line, just like we have been with our foundation, pin here, and sew all the way down. Once we have that sewn, we can go ahead and pull all the paper off. All right, once we have that sewn, it's like this. I pulled all the paper off and gave it a good press open. This is where this long nose tweezer comes in handy, because there's always little pieces of paper that I can't quite rip out, so this really helps me grab the little pieces. It's a very tedious part of it, but once you get to here, you have your A's and your B's, everything is open, and the back, all you're going to do is you're going to put your 2 together, matching those points again, right up here, okay, matching these points with the next one. You're going to sew at your 1/4 of an inch, you're going to press that open, and then once you have your 2 at the top, 2 at the bottom, you can go ahead and put your whole block together. It's a lot of pieces. It's going to take you a little while, hopefully you enjoy paper piecing as much as I do, and we'll see you next month. Thanks for watching.